Live on Facebook and YouTube.
What's going on Facebook? What's up YouTube? What's up TikTok? Wait, on Instagram right now.
Usual.
Let's see what's going on here.
And we're live on Instagram.
All right, guys. So, James, what are we calling today again?
Why partnerships fail?
Why partnerships fail? Well, I've been in a partnership that failed pretty much, and we had to end it. But it didn't have to end that way. It didn't have to fail. And when I speak to a lot of coaching clients, there's a lot of issues with partnerships. And what it comes down to is one word: communication. It's just a lack of communication. People do not communicate properly. And in order to communicate properly, what are you communicating about? That's actually like the real question here. Because obviously people know they should be communicating, but what is it you communicate about? So let's talk about particular roles that need to be spoken about in the salon. We're speaking partnerships are partnerships, right? It doesn't matter if you're running a salon, a barbershop, it could be any business. But if there's no clearly defined roles for each one of the partners on what they have to do for the business, then chaos happens. So at least you need to have a structure. And we just went over this today in my community, the organizational chart or structure, where you have your salon owner / CEO, then you have your management, then you have your marketing leader, then you have your stylist leader, and you go down the whole entire organizational chart. When you have a partnership, whether it's two partners, there's three, there's four, only one person can be the CEO. Only one. And you take a look at some, like, historically, some of the best businesses, partnership businesses in the world, like take a look at Apple, Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs. There was one CEO, right? And you had Steve Wozniak in the background just doing his thing. But both of them were equally responsible for the success of that business. And then you have, James, who was it in Microsoft?
Bill Gates, and I don't know who else.
Whoever that guy was. And then you have Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. So you take a look at some of the most successful businesses in the world. There's partnerships involved, but you only really hear one person. It's crucial that one of the people involved in a partnership has zero ego, or else it just won't work. So obviously we talk about communication, that's necessary, but then the job description and what each partner is going to do. Because in the beginning, you're going to do everything. You're going to need someone to do marketing, someone to do social media, which is part of marketing, filming the content, SEO, building the website, dealing with the team members, who's educating the team, who's dealing with the stylist when something happens and you have to redo a client. Whose job is that? So as a partner, you need to make sure every single role in the salon, every hat that you have to wear, is clearly defined and assigned to one person or the other. That's really the only way it's going to work. Then you guys have to like sync up. You have to have a meeting once, twice a week, every morning. Like if you're a fast growing company, that meeting might have to happen every single day. At the most, it has to happen once a week. That's the only way to actually have a salon or a business that will become successful, is you're communicating on a short enough timeline that things don't get chaotic. So if you meet every day, what I would probably do is I would have a designated day to speak about a designated area of the business that a particular partner is in charge of. So if you and your partner agree on marketing, marketing could be Marketing Mondays, and the partner in charge of Marketing Mondays gives you the report. They let you know, hey, here's what we did last week in marketing. Here's what we spent on ads. Here's how many posts that went out. Here's our engagement level. And based on those metrics, you guys discuss what you're going to do next. But you have one person in charge of getting all that data. Then you have one person maybe in charge of the team, right? In terms of the progression of the new stylist who are advancing from junior stylist to a senior stylist on the floor. And that partner goes over how the class was. That could happen on Wednesday morning. And so every single day of the week has a theme. Like I said, Mondays could be marketing. Tuesdays could be SEO, right? What goes in marketing. Tuesdays could be leadership. We talk about the team. And then Wednesdays could be finances, how the numbers went. And then Thursday could be, what could Thursday be, James?
I don't know. Fridays.
E-commerce. Right? Talk about your e-commerce section of the business. What's happening with that? Fridays are retail. So as long as you guys go into that meeting with a clear understanding who's going to run that meeting, because that's the one partner that's going to be, in charge of those numbers. And then what are you going to do next? You have to inspect what you expect. The problem is when you assign roles from one partner to another, you're just thinking that it's getting done. And if you don't have any kind of like position agreement or don't have any kind of standard that you set, then 3 months go by, 4 months go by, 5 months go by, and the salon's not where you thought it was. And then what happens is one person gets pissed at another, and then you're not living up to your end of the deal. And then one's saying you're not living up to your end of the deal. And next thing you know, there's animosity. And then your salons run like shit because you're stylish. Like they don't get along. Who do you ask? Like when a stylist wants a day off, do they ask partner A or partner B? Like, is that defined? Is that clearly laid out when you bring on a new team member? Who are they speaking to? So if you are in a partnership right now and you're struggling, more than likely it's because the two of you think that you're the CEO and you're not. Only one of you could be the CEO. Each one of you could be in charge of a particular area of the business, but you both can't be in charge of everything. And so sit down with your partner or partners, list out all the roles that are involved in your salon, and then assign them to one person and another. And if you have one partner who's working behind the chair still and one partner who's not, then the delegation of the roles is going to be a little more lopsided because you have one person working behind the chair. But that's okay. That's not going to be forever. Because the whole purpose of owning a business, and salon owners always get this wrong, is to get out of the role of doing hair. And if you don't want to do that, at least build the business so you can step away from doing the hair. If you want to keep doing it, that's fine. But organize the business, organize the salon, put systems in place. So if you ever want to step away one day or you want to sell it, you can. That's so crucial. And when you're an owner behind the chair and you have a partner who's not doing hair, you're going to be upset with them because they're not doing as much as you are. And the person who's not doing hair thinks you're not paying attention to them because they're still behind the chair and they're making the money behind the chair and you're only pulling out what the business can allot for. And it gets frustrating. So best tip I can give outside of communicating is who's doing what for the salon. James, we're going to jump to some Q&A. And we're going to talk about who on TikTok. You could drop questions right here. I think I can see them on that feed. But on the rest of the feed, what questions you have if you're dealing with a partnership, if you're thinking about going into a partnership? Like, what are some of the things you're nervous about? I'd love to hear it in the chats. But I know from my personal experience, when you enter into a partnership, it's no different than a relationship, like with you and a girl or a guy. Like you have your best foot forward. Everyone's like on their best behavior. You're excited. You're in love, right? And like you have this grand vision of what the salon's going to do. Then when chaos ensues, you have a walkout, something happens, you start blaming people. And if you don't have designated roles, you're just pointing a finger in thin air. Like you have to assign that particular role to that particular person, and then they have to be accountable for that. And if you don't have that, then honestly, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to break, and then you're not going to know who to fix them, how to fix them, and you're going to get pissed at each other. And more than likely, it's going to end in the partnership breaking up when it doesn't have to be that way. James, any questions come up?
Not at the moment.
Guys on TikTok, if you got questions on running your salon with a partner, just let me know. I want to see if I can help you guys out at all. Today we do Q&A on Mondays. So Friday's Q&A, we had somebody ask about, a partnership and she wanted her investor, or she had a friend of hers or a client of hers rather that wanted to invest in the salon. And I said that probably wasn't the best idea unless that particular investor has invested in salons in the past, because they don't understand the dichotomy of this particular business or this industry. It's super complex for people who think that owning a salon is just a turnkey operation where you step into it and make $1 million a year. Typically, salons are working off an 8 to 12% profit margin. So when you have partners and you're doing, let's say, $1 million a year in revenue, at 10%, that's $100,000. Split between two people, in a perfect world, it's $50,000 each. You can't live off that, at least where I am in North Jersey. And so what's going to happen is you guys are going to be struggling to pay the bills, and no one's going to know what to do next and how to grow that business because it's just chaotic and you guys aren't communicating properly, especially from an investor standpoint. You're doing hair behind the chair. Now you're going to be working for free because you're putting all your hard-earned money back into the salon again to try and get the bills paid because it's not structured the right way, because it doesn't run like a regular business. It does, in certain aspects, but this salon industry, barbershop business, lash business, it's different. It's dynamic. Like, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with a lot of different variables that a particular normal business doesn't necessarily have to deal with. So when you have an investor take a look at your salon and you're working behind the chair and they say to you, "Hey, why don't you open your own place? I'll back you." It's a really important conversation to have with that person and let them understand that they may not be getting that money back for several years. Because if you buy the salon or you rent the space and you buy all the material that goes into it, the color, the back bar, the stations, the station stock, like, all of that stuff costs money, and it could cost you upwards of 250 grand. And if you're, doing $1 million a year in that salon, that first year, you didn't make any of that money back and you still have other bills to pay. It's important that the investor understands that and that you are crystal clear on what their role is in the salon too. Because if they're just going to be a financial investor, you're going to kind of have animosity towards that person because they're not doing anything for giving you the money. And so now you're left to run the whole salon yourself, do the hair, do the hiring, do the firing, do the ordering, do the everything. That person's going to want their end of the deal. And you're going to feel like, no, all they did was put the money up and I'm stuck here doing all this work. And you're going to resent that person. But that was in your original contract. They're putting the money up. You handle everything else. Well, everything else needs to get paid. So that's when you create that organizational chart and you have those certain roles. And those certain roles need to have an allocation of funds to them so you could hire them out eventually. This is like business 101. But when you go into business as a hairstylist or a barber, you're going into it with the mindset of being an artist. And unfortunately, you have to get rid of that mindset and you have to look at it through the lens of an entrepreneur, as a real leader, as a real business owner. And the reason why you stepped out of the role of being an artist is to run a business. But unfortunately, once you do it, you realize it's a whole new set of skills, a whole new language that you don't know. And so before you open a salon, especially with an investor, make sure you get some kind of education. Make sure you hire a mentor, hire a coach, read a book. Like, you don't have to hire somebody if you don't have the funds for it, but you should be digesting every single business book that's out there on the market, in audio version, in reading version. Go to the podcast, whatever you can do to elevate your business acumen so you could be as successful as possible as a business owner. You have to do that. You cannot just open a salon thinking just because you're good at hair, it's going to work out. And if you have two people who both are really good at hair and you're like, wow, our salon sucks where we're at right now, let's open one together. Well, one of you guys need to learn the business side of things and step away from that role of the artist, of that technician, because it's not going to be successful. So just to recap, guys, if you got questions on TikTok, drop them right here. But just to recap, before you enter into a partnership, clearly define the roles of that business and which partner is going to do what. And the most important role, you have to clearly define who's going to serve in that role is the salon owner / CEO. Even though you're both the owners, you need to have a CEO. Has to be one person at the top. And then every single thing below that is going to be assigned to one partner or another. This way, your team, when there's an issue, they know what person to speak to. If it's a problem with hair, like a haircut or a client that received a bad haircut, they go to Nick. If it's a problem with the social media, something's happening with the grammar on the social media post or something like that, they can go to James. If something's going on with the inventory, there's no color in the back room, well, that's Jennifer's role. And so as long as you have all this stuff laid out, your partnership will more than likely succeed. But everyone says communication is important. But what are you communicating about? Like, you need some layers and depth in that answer. So the layers and depth that you need is a role that each partner is going to play. You need to have a number or a metric to measure how successful they are at that particular role. And then you both have to meet up and sync up once a week on that particular area of the business so you can move the business forward with clear communication and standards that are being met. So, with that said, that's my quick little partnership 101.
I got
James?
a question.
You got a question? Send it through.
Where did it go? How can salon owners recognize early warning signs that the partnership might not work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's one sign. If you guys have a meeting set up and the other partner doesn't show up to the meeting, like in person with like one of the booking softwares you're bringing into place, it's just the respect's not there. You have to make sure that each partner respects the other's role. If you guys agree that you're both going to put in $10,000 each and that one partner doesn't have that money and you're like, well, I'll put in 15, you just get me back for that other 5, that's an issue. Like you both have to, the second your agreement and what you agree to do is not being met, that's a red flag. So if you guys set the standard that that particular partner is going to live up to, and they fall short right away, you have to address that. It's crucial. But typically, if you're going to enter in a partnership with someone who's doing hair in a salon, they need to be doing as much money as you behind the chair. They have to understand, like, they have to understand what it takes. Where I see partnerships go wrong is when jealousy kicks in. It's one partner is doing way more financially behind the chair, and then the other partner's not making nearly as much, maybe because they're not as good, maybe they're because they're not working as hard. But either way, that's when jealousy sets in. For the most part, that's what I've seen. So if you both are making 20,000 a month behind the chair, then there's no really jealousy gonna unfold. And so one person may step back from behind the chair and really run the salon, and the salon hopefully could financially support that person's needs and then pay that person. So that's one thing. James, next question.
Yeah. What strategies do you recommend for resolving conflicts between partners?
If there's two well, you just no, the strategy is you have the role that partner is designated to do, the position agreement, and you literally just look at the area, the criteria of that agreement. Are they living up to that? If there's a standard being set, like if you have a partner and they're in charge of the social media and you take a look at your Instagram or your YouTube or whatever you're using and they haven't posted in 3 months, well, then something's wrong. If you have a partner who's in charge of educating your team and you're getting redos every week for your haircuts, their education, something's wrong with the education. And so that needs to be spoken about and addressed. And then in your original contract, in your original agreement with the partner, you have to lay all of that out. If partner so-and-so doesn't live up to their end of the agreement, what happens? What's the buyout clause in there? How does the one partner protect themselves against the other? Like all of that needs to be laid out beforehand, like almost like a prenup agreement. This is no different than any other relationship. So like a partnership's like a marriage, 100%. So each partner has to go into it with an understanding of, hey, this is what my obligations are. This is what their obligations are. If I'm living up to mine and they're not living up to theirs, this is how we handle it. All that needs to be laid out ahead of time. And all you do is follow the script, literally. If this, then that. All right. So if partner A is not doing this, go to section B of the contract, and this is how we handle it. And you both agree ahead of time that that's how it's being handled. And there's nothing anyone else can really do about it because you both agreed on that's how it's being handled when that situation arises. It might take you like a couple weeks to really write this contract out and think of every scenario. Because in the beginning, you're gonna be super happy. Like you're gonna be like excited, and everyone like is agreeing that they're gonna do everything. And once you own a business, shit gets really hard. Then then like the truth sets in. Like, hey, maybe one partner's not cut out for it. It's time to get rid of them. James.
Um, How can salon partners set clear boundaries between business and personal relationships?
With your agreements, like when you guys are in your meeting, you're speaking about the role that that person is doing for the salon, and you keep your personal life out of it. Yeah, it comes with maturity. Like it honestly, like one of my favorite books in the world is the Four Agreements, and one of the agreements is don't take things personal. Hey, it's not that I dislike you as a person. You're just a shitty salon owner. It's flat out the truth. So uh, be prepared when you enter into a partner with somebody that if it doesn't work out, you're probably not going to be friends anymore. It's just not going to happen unless you're both mature enough to handle the situation in the salon not working out. I 100% could handle it. It doesn't bother me. I don't have an ego. But a lot of people do. A lot of people can't handle someone being more successful than them. And it's just the nature of the beast. So before you enter into a partnership with somebody and your friends, you have a personal relationship, you have to understand that you're married to that person. If there's anything about that person that triggers you or you don't like, it's probably not a good partnership to enter into. And you have to be a strong enough leader if you're going to take that role on as the owner to wear the like to own the failures, but strong enough to pass off the successes. So because you're a partner with somebody, it doesn't matter if the salon is succeeding because of you, you still share that responsibility. But if you're taking that role of the CEO and the salon has an issue and something goes wrong, because you chose to be the CEO of that organization, you have to wear the failure and you don't share that with the other partner. You may on paper, obviously financially, but when it comes to like the conversation of the salon success, that's on you. It sucks. It's the most brutal thing in the world, but that's just how you have to handle it.
I don't know how to pronounce her name.
You can just ask a question.
Codain. What are some things that you would put in a contract for the person in charge of marketing?
Oh shit. Let's bring this up real quick. So let's do it. Let's do.
You can share your screen. So,
I can or I can't.
oh no, you're not because you're not. I can send you an invite and then you can share your screen.
No, I'm just gonna jump right through it. So when you're in charge of marketing, the things that I would put in are the key responsibilities, like what's the content strategy, what are they going to manage, like what are the social media platforms they're in charge of, how many and then like what is it you guys are going to market to, like what is their role, and then what are the KPIs, like how do you measure their success? That needs to be in there as well. In that agreement, I would put the day and time you guys are going to meet up. Is it every Tuesday? Is it every Monday? Is it every week? I would put in what exactly part of the marketing they're in charge of. Are they in charge of social media? Are they in charge of organic content or paid content or both? Are they in charge of SEO? Like, because marketing's huge. Are they in charge of in-person events as well? The marketing for the salon, or is it just digital marketing? All of that needs to be laid out. Then all the tools and software that that person needs to be successful at their job and the cost of that. Do they need an assistant? And I would lay all of that out. But the most important things is you need to have some kind of a metric, some kind of an indicator. It's called the KPI in the business world, but something that measures that person's success on how they're doing. And then those numbers need to be owned by that person. So once that person hits a certain level and they need an assistant, they can offload some of those metrics to somebody else. But that's what I would include in there. And then I would have each person sign off on it. But you need to have a position overview, like what exactly is entailed, what platforms are going to be in charge of, and is it organic or is it paid social media? Are they the ads? Is it email marketing or is it Instagram marketing? Is it in-person marketing? All that shit has to get laid out. It's a lot. And then from there, how do you measure success? What's that look like? What needs to be true about this particular marketing campaign that we can identify that it was successful or not? So next question, James.
Yeah, where did it go? How do you handle a partner who starts losing passion for the business?
I'm willing to bet that hey, you have to have the conversation. Like, is your heart still in it anymore? Then you have a buyout clause in the contract, but you have to ask them what doesn't excite you anymore about running a salon? Is there something else you could be doing in the business that would excite you more? Because there's something about the day-to-day war that you deal with when running a business that breaks people down. And they just hate going to work. The second you feel like your partner has that feeling, you have to talk to them. What's going on? Talk to me. And you could pull them aside as a friend if you guys are close too. Like, hey, talk to me. What's happening? Like, what's going on with you're not excited anymore? Is there something going on at home? Like, is there some like when here's the one thing that no one really understands. When you have a partnership with one of your friends, a lot of times you're not friends anymore, you're partners. And so as long as you have that conversation or at least knowledge that when you're hanging out, you are going to be friends hanging out or your business partners hanging out. Like, because Anthony, he's, my partner over there on the other side, he helps delegate the salon, helps delegate a lot of roles. He's like, I'm going to talk, like, let me talk to you as best friend talk, right? Not business talk. And he'll break that down. Hey, I need a best friend conversation right now. And like, we're cool with that. That needs to happen. But when it's business, it's business. So if somebody's losing passion, it's up to the two of you to figure out why they're losing passion and how you can fix it. Can you put somebody else in that role for that person and give them something else that excites them? But don't just ignore it. Ignoring it's not going to go away. The only way to fix the problem is to address the problem and then come up with a solution for it. I promise you, ignoring a situation is never going to make it go away. It's only going to make it get worse. James, any more questions?
Yeah. What are the best ways to assess whether two people are truly a good fit to run a salon together before committing?
I would. There's these tests out there. There is the disc test you could take. There is a bunch of tests online, personality tests. And I have one on my website that I do to address the owner, right? To see what their genius type is like. And so you want a complementary partner. Like, you want someone who's opposite of you. So this way, their strength is your weakness and your weakness is their strength. And this way you complement each other. That's the best way to enter into a partnership, because typically what you don't feel like doing is going to excite them, and what they don't like doing excites you. The next thing is you want to make sure this person aligns with your core values. You guys want to make sure you both value the same thing. Look, you have opposite personality types, let's say, but similar core values and similar character. So honesty to me is a non-negotiable. Make a list of your non-negotiables, and at the top of that, when it comes to a partnership, is honesty. Like, you have to be able to trust the person. So integrity, honesty, any of those core values, paramount, right? Then underneath that, then respect, loyalty, like those other core values are super important. But you have to make sure you trust that person with your life. And this is a fact. Like, there are brothers who fuck each other over, blood family members who screw each other over for money. So it's just like honesty is right up there. Like, I trust a lot of people. My register is open. Like, my stylist can just go in there and steal, but they don't, because I trust them. And eventually you're going to get caught. But for when it comes to a partnership, having that trust is crucial, but then also inspecting what you expect from that particular role that person's fulfilling for the salon. And so as long as you're always meeting once a week, inspecting that role, and hey, we should have 200,000 in the account, but there's only 180. What's going on? What happened? Oh, 20,000 was allocated for this particular thing. Oh, well, now you know where the money's at. So it's important that you guys have trust. James? Is that it?
What are effective ways to ensure salon partners stay transparent about finances, responsibilities, and concerns?
Yeah, the most effective way is, I call it the agenda. You can call it the weekly sync. You go to your Google Calendar, you create an event, a reoccurring event for every Monday morning at 10, every Tuesday morning at 12. Doesn't matter the time or the date. It just matters it's reoccurring every single week. And then you sync up about that particular area of finances and you just review them. Now, what you do is you attach a Google Doc to that event. It's living. It always goes with that event throughout the calendar. And no matter what, you guys always keep that event. I don't care if you guys are traveling on vacation, if you're going somewhere, then the event goes to a virtual event. But you guys have to maintain that cadence every single week. And that would mean that you guys are always being transparent. You guys are always communicating, and the partnership will succeed. Just because you work together every day and you have these like quick little 5-minute phone calls and weekly check-ins, it's not enough. You got to go in depth. This is something I struggle with in my own salons too. Like I see them every single day, but you have to dedicate time to speak about that particular area of the business every single week. And so you might have to meet 3 or 4 times a week so you have enough time to talk about that particular area. Like I said, one day it could just be marketing. One day it could just be finances. One day it could be the leadership, what's going on with the team. So as long as you guys sync up every week and don't miss it, you guys will be fine. That's one thing you could do that will ensure success. And James, last question, if there is one.
Yeah, this is actually a good one for you. How do you handle it if one partner is naturally more risk adverse while the other one is aggressive in business decisions?
Good question. It depends on their level of financial participation in the business. And the one who's more risk adverse needs to be a better salesperson to sell it to the person who isn't. I mean, that's flat out. Like you should have some things that need to be true about a financial investment for the business that if they check all the boxes, then you can just go all in. But typically that's going to happen in any business partner. My appetite for risk is, I would say, in the upper
very high
10%, upper 1% of the world for appetite. I don't give a fuck. I send it because I know that I may not be here tomorrow. But that's why you need to have insurance policies. My appetite for risk is so high, but I also know that I have multiple life insurance policies that if anything happens to me, I'm covering all the debt and all the risk. And so that's one thing you could do is make sure you have insurance policies set up in place where if this person can't fulfill their obligation that they said they were going to do because something catastrophic happened, it's covered, right? They took on a lot of debt because they had this vision and they're taking action on it. And God forbid something happens, knock on wood, now you're covered financially for that particular risk that person put you in or a situation that person put you in. But like I said, there's one CEO of the company, one leader. The person who's not as risk adverse needs to trust you and your vision. Like I know Steve Jobs pulled the plug on a lot of different things and was like, fuck it. I don't care if it's 10, 20, 30 million. He just pulled the plug on and they pivoted. You have to trust that person who has the vision. And if there's no trust there, then you guys shouldn't be partners anyway. But create the checklist. Don't just go into shit blind and reckless. Risk is fine if the risk is managed. So you're always going to have that situation when it comes to a business. Hope that answers your question. And that is it for today. Guys, like I said, me and James are figuring out a time. I'm going to post a time for the podcast in my story later on this week. So you can tune in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and get the specific time for the show. If you want to be a guest, DM me on Instagram at Nick Marabella, and you can come on as a guest. We could talk about the industry. We could talk about SEO. We could talk about marketing, talk about cutting hair. It doesn't really matter as long as it pertains to business and our industry in some way, shape, or form.
I'm waiting for somebody to come on and debate you on why 1099 is illegal.
Oh, I would love that.
A lot of people that like to talk shit.
If you guys want to debate me on the whole 1099 conversation, all you TikTokers over there, I see all you stylists who don't own salons that think you know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't. Come on, let's debate it. I'll lay out my whole entire blueprint to you, and you could try and poke holes in it all you want. You're a lawyer. You can bring on your account. You could bring on the IRS. I don't give a shit who you bring on. I'll debate it with you, and we'll go over it. And you'll be like, wow, Nick, wow, that's fucking genius. You are a genius. So that's what's going to happen if you guys try and debate me. But I invite any of you to do it. So, James, you're good?
I'm good.
You're ready to cut it off? All right, TikTok. I'll see you later. I don't know who joined this live or not, but I don't even know how to work this thing. See you later.